heavily involved. I knew this was definitely something special to work on. It was awesome.
Yeah, I second all of that. There was a particular buzz around the studio when this was being cast and when it was being talked about. And just like Chris said, we heard, this has the potential to be, one of the bigger shows. And you hear that and you say, that would be amazing, but I'm just gonna move on with my day and we'll see what happens. But then, so I ended up getting a role in it. And the first season, I remember it being, they took a lot of time to really establish, which I think is amazing, All Might and Midoriya's relationship and what that was, and they set the foundation for that, which I think paid off really big later on. But it wasn't until I remember in season 2 where the sports festival happened and like the whole thing just really caught fire. That's when we started. That's when I first recognized, oh, right, okay, so they weren't wrong. This could be huge.
I think for me, it was the first time I went to a convention and Froppy way outsold Bulma. And I was like, whoa! I didn't think this was possible. Dragon Ball's been around for 20 years. This is a brand new show, but Froppy kicked Bulma's butt.
I really don't have anything to add. You guys kind of covered it. It was like we had the hope, we had the kind of Funimation thought it was going to be a big deal, and then we were just kind of like, all right, we'll see.
Yeah, I think my personal perspective on this is kind of a unique one because I came in really late, late in the show, the season 4 and the movie. So by that time, My Hero Academia was already a phenomenon. So I worked on season 4 first the Shia Saikai. I was Sakaki, the drunk villain and I was like, okay, cool. I'm in My Hero. That's all. If you're in LA and you don't really work on in Texas projects, you're just I'm glad I was in that one episode doing those 3 lines, and that's something I never thought would happen. So playing Hawks was just kind of an upgrade to that, and joining something that was kind of when I got to it already sort of a phenomenon. So how do I rise to that occasion? I think was kind of my perspective on it.
And I saw that we had a little latecomer show up. Do you want to introduce yourself down there at the end of the table?
Hello, my name is Trina Nishimura and I am tardy. I play Jiro in My Hero Academia. I'm so happy to be here today.
So Trina, if you didn't hear the question that I asked earlier, it's when you started working on the first episode or whatever episode you started working on with the show, and originally, did you know how influential this show would be towards both anime and the superhero community?
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay.
Cool.
By the time it gets to me, I'm gonna be ready.
There you go. You got your answer.
I thought it was to you. It's not to you yet?
No.
I did not know.
Like Xeno, I came along around season 4, and by then it was already huge and established. And I remember the director, Colleen Klinkenbeard, said, I got a guy I want you to read for. I want you to audition. I think he'd be a good fit for you. It's like, oh, sweet. And I saw the character design. It's like, oh my God, I hope I get this guy because he's amazing looking. Just looking, even if not knowing anything about the character, if you just see him, you just want to hug him. So cute.
The director does seem to, take our personalities in the real world into account with her casting choices, which is interesting.
Yes, right. That's like, bring a part of yourself to the role.
I mean, what does that say about us?
I'm mad because Jason could say that. Trina, it's now your turn.
I did. There have been rumblings, like everyone else had said, that My Hero Academia would be a massive big time deal, but you really just never know. I think I can confidently say that we are all just incredibly grateful to the fandom and to all of you for caring and for loving these characters and for enjoying the show. It's amazing, and it's always remarkable to me when we go to a convention and people are like, oh my God, you did a good job. And I'm like, really? Okay, great,
Thank you.
So thank you for coming, thank you for supporting, and we're all very grateful for you.
So that's actually a really good lead-in to the next question that I had for you guys. When you guys go to these events, to these conventions, to these fan expo things, are there any favorite experiences you guys have had, a fan that's just really left a really good impression on you, or some interaction that you guys can remember that's always just going to stick with you, either from the My Hero fandom or from any of the fandoms that you guys have become a part of through your voice acting talents? Whoever wants to start.
I met a young lady there are these specific My Hero conventions that kind of travel across the US, and we were doing those for a while. And I met a young lady that was cosplaying Suyu, and she was like, I really want to go into the cosplay, but I'm afraid I've never done this before, and I don't know if I'm gonna lose. And I was like, you know what? Go out there and do your best, because the worst thing that can happen is you don't win, but you still got out there and you did the thing. And I thought she was gonna go, okay, cool. She was there with her mom and like walk off. Well, it turns out the mom comes back and goes, she's actually doing it. She entered the contest. I'm like, oh, cool. She won.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's that moment of like realizing like, oh gosh, not only are we voicing these heroes, but to some folks we are heroes. And so having to live up to that, I take that really seriously now. It's like, I'm a role model and I wanna be good for you guys so that I'm just even a sliver as nice as Suyu.
I went first last time. You can go first second. Because you're number 2.
Ladies first. Ladies, so number 2, that means you've gotta go. Ladies first.
Okay, fine. Thank you. One of the things that I've always loved about Midnight is that I believe that she really does embody like sex and body positivity. And I had a woman come up to my table and she was rocking a Midnight cosplay, like bada bing, bada boom. And she came up to me and she just said, I wanna thank you. Because she said, I've never felt comfortable cosplaying before because I don't fit the traditional kind of like image of what American culture tends to put forth as like the ideal female body. And she was like, it wasn't until I watched My Hero and saw Midnight where I was like, oh, I want to do that. I think I can do that. And I think I can feel beautiful doing that. And that was, made my heart explode.
For me, growing up, I didn't really see a lot of actors who look like me in kind of sort of prominent anime roles. And Hawks is a pretty big role, probably one of my, it changed my entire career, so probably one of my biggest roles. So I think the thing that sticks with me the most is that when I see people who also look like me, who recognize that like me being in the position that I am also inspires them, you know, they want to pursue voice acting, and they're like, this is something that I didn't think I could do because I didn't know it was possible, but then I saw you. That lets me kind of, it's a very affirming feeling, and knowing that like a character I play, actually somebody came up to me today and they said like, that Hawks had helped them through like a lot of tough times in their lives, and like someone said Hawks had helped them start a small business. Like just these things like that, like that are like, how our work impacts the people who watch it that we don't even know. I think it's like always kind of very gratifying and affirming to me, for me personally.
I gotta say, man, Hawks is one of my favorite characters on the show. So
Thank you.
I really appreciate what you bring to the role, man. It's so good.
Thank you for watching.
Yeah.
I had one pretty specific poignant interaction. And it wasn't a My Hero interaction. It was from a show called Darker Than Black.
I love that show. Were you the main guy in that?
I was the main guy.
Oh my God.
I was Hay and his alter ego.
I freaking love that show. That opening,
one of my favorites.
opening to that song is, to that show is so good.
I appreciate
Howling,
that.
oh my gosh. It's my mind's
It's the closest I'll ever come to playing Batman, in my estimation.
We'll be back after these messages.
Anyway, I was doing a panel and a veteran stood up and came to the mic, and he had a prosthetic limb. And he explained to me that he had been hurt by an IED in Iraq, and he'd been in a hospital in Germany recovering, and he'd watched Darker Than Black, and that my performance had helped him get through it. That he felt he might die, and you know, he didn't know who he'd be afterwards, but somehow that helped him.
That's amazing.
And that kind of blew my mind.
Yeah, your impact. Wow.
I had a similar interaction having to do with body positivity, but this kind of opened my eyes saying, you know, guys struggle with body image too. And so when a fan said, hey, when I saw your character, I felt confident enough to cosplay because, hey, he's a big guy, I'm a big guy, I could totally cosplay. It's like, honestly, it's not about size. You can be any size and cosplay anything you want. That's the beauty. It's all up to interpretation, right? You can even cosplay as your own original character and just put your creativity out there. So it really doesn't matter. Right? This guy.
Illuminati mechanic.
Yeah. But it really meant a lot. And I've had interactions just like Jason through the years where people tell you, it's like I was struggling at a hard point in my life, and your character in Fill in the Blank show totally just turned things around for me. It's like, that's icing on the cake for what we do.
Absolutely.
You don't think about that when we're voice acting and getting direction and doing the thing. Okay, that's great, moving on to the next line. And then it comes out, it's out in the world. And then we see the effect it has on you guys through social media interaction, and of course the best way of all, conventions. So thank you.
I'm very fortunate to have been cast in the roles that I've been cast in. I am very honored to be on this stage. I am humbled, and I don't know who just sighed. I think that was Sabbath, but somebody just sighed real big in the microphone. It was awesome. I'm humbled. God. But yeah, no, I am. I know it sounds cheesy. I know I'm like always like close to tears when I'm saying it. And you know, F you if you don't like it. Like that's how I feel. And it's incredibly humbling, and I don't know how this happened, and I don't know how long this wave will last, and I'll ride it till it's over and be forever grateful. So thank you.
Yeah, all these stories are really good examples of things. There's so many people that come up and they don't tell a story.
Yeah.
And they walk up and you can just see it in someone's face.
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't have to say anything at all. And it's in that moment where you just take a moment and you breathe and you look at each other and you just have this understanding that you are part of this greater thing. Because these large shows like Dragon Ball and My Hero Academia and One Piece and things like that, they've helped so many people get through so many different struggles, through bad things happening at home for worlds to escape into, and you know, a kid who was attacked by like 500 bees, like Africanized bees, and he was allergic to bees, and he thought of Vegeta powering up, and he powered through it, and there's just, so these shows really are inspiring, and it's the people that come up and you just lock eyes and you know that, and I just end up saying like, hey, welcome to the club, guys, because we're all part of this. Like we all have had this, and we've all, actually all of us up here have been profoundly affected, as Trina said, like by these shows. It's changed our lives, so.
You, speaking of, you did that to me. So Dragon Ball, I grew up, so it was cool being in the movie with you, because like.
You were so good!
Thank you so much. It's interesting how we also don't know the impact we have on each other, because I remember we worked on it, and I heard your voice, and I was like, this is the voice of my childhood. Like, I'm directly interacting with it, and all of the memories I've made, all the friends I've made is directly because of how that show is so interweaving in my community. So it's we're all in together for it.
Yeah, I would just add that, you know, the greatest gift that I've received is coming to these conventions, meeting all of you, and realizing that these stories and the characters have an impact. And like Chris said, that we're all part of something that's bigger than our individual selves, that the story, the narrative, the world that's created, that we can connect through that. And I think like connection is, you know, something we all desperately want. I've had so many, I don't have a specific one, but I've had so many conversations with people about childhood trauma stuff, you know, using Todoroki as a way in to start that conversation, but relationship with parents. I had one guy in a panel that I was on that raised his hand, and he said he's a social worker and he works with youth, you know, and that he uses the character of Todoroki to kind of start a conversation and connect with them, and it's just, you just never think, like Kyle said, you know, when we're in there, you know, voice acting and taking direction and doing the thing, you know, you're so focused on that you don't really think about those larger moments until you come to an event and it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm a part of something that's that beautiful. So thank you guys for everything you bring to us as well.
Honestly.
That's why they're our heroes, man. Come on, give it up for them. That's great. So I did want to kind of follow up on something that Zeno was talking about. I know that you guys all get to do all these voiceover roles and everything. hopefully together in the same room, and just listening to some of the moments. No, not all the time.
No.
Okay.
Never.
Well, either way, I know that you guys have recorded some just legendary moments, both in My Hero and in other series that you guys have been a part of. Do you guys have a moment that just sticks out in your mind as like something you voiceovered for either My Hero or something else that just has stuck with you and stayed with you throughout all the show? That it's just like, that's the highlight, that's like the biggest moment I've done so far, like type deal? What do you got?
United States of Smash. 100%.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
That was like everything, like my entire career, like flashed before my eyes as that was happening. Like it was the most epic moment, and it was really overwhelming because the show is like when you're working on the show, you've got the music and the sound effects, and if you're the last guy to record, which is sometimes the case for me, you get to hear everybody else in your ear, and it's like you're in the show. So the feeling that you get watching it, we get to feel that as we're recording it. And anime dubbing used to be considered like this kind of this lower rung of the acting, kind of the acting ladder or whatever it was. But now we have people on huge shows asking us how they can get into these things, because I think it's the most amazing method of recording. When you go to record for a video game, sometimes you're lucky if they have a picture of the character.
Yeah.
But in this world, especially if you're affected by sound and visuals, it's the coolest thing. You get to be in this massive world, and you get to be a part of it. So that was just such an epic moment.
Dude, I have to just piggyback on that. What you just described is the experience I have now, and I've never put it into words that way. When I go into the booth to record for even if it's one line, I go in, I'm looking at the anime, that world, and immediately I'm in that world, and the music and the other voices. I once had an experience where I came into the booth early to record, and Josh Greeley was in there, and I kind of tiptoed in, and he was recording for Tokoyami, and I just remember having this like kind of fan moment where I was like, oh my God, he's doing the voice, he's doing it, it's real, right here, like live. And I was like, oh my God, why I'm reacting like this? But I had once had a fan, or someone raise their hand in a panel and say, I don't really have a question, and it was a solo panel, this was years ago. I don't really have a question, but I just wanted to say it's really exciting to know that you're as big of a fan of the show as we are. And I took that as a huge compliment, because when I went back and watched it, I was like, oh yeah, I see what everyone's talking about now. So yeah, that has nothing to do with the question, I don't think. The one thing that comes to mind for me, there's so many moments, I can't really choose one, but the Deku Todoroki fight in the sports festival, it's just, yeah, it's epic. And we knew it was kind of epic, and it was like, we feel that pressure with a show like this to make sure that it is what it's supposed to be and that it hits the way it's supposed to hit. So yeah, that's one that comes to mind. I love that moment.
I remember watching it, I was like, Deku lost!
Yeah, right?
I think for me, I would love to give you a CU moment, but what's hit me the most is I've been lucky enough to be a sub-director for Colleen, so I've kind of stepped into her shoes when she's not able to. And I've gotten to do a couple episodes, but I got to do the Heroes Rising movie. We actually, it's really funny. We were on such a time crunch. We were using Chris's studio, and Colleen was in one studio, and I was in the other, and we would run back and forth and be like, okay, I got this person. Did you get this person? But one of my favorite moments from that, Bakugo and Suyu have a very relationship, right? And so as a human, I always think of Bakugo as like, oh, it's Bakugo.
Same.
But when I got to work with Clifford, I got to work with Clifford, and that whole last scene, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but at the end of Heroes Rising, Bakugo has a major change, right? And getting to talk to Clifford as an actor and asking him, like, how do you want to approach this? And hearing him talk about Bakugo and how much he cared about Bakugo and how he wanted to approach this, it reminded me of myself and how I feel about Suyu, and that's when I realized we all have these relationships with these characters where it's like we want the best for them. We want them to just be this shining beacon to all of you, and that was really special, and it made me hate Bakugo less.
What was the question again?
So it's if there's a big moment you had while doing voiceover work, either on My Hero Academia or whatever else you guys have worked on, that really like just stuck with you, like something like big, dramatic in the show or whatever.
Mine is yet to come.
Oh. Dun, dun, dun.
Ooh. Yes, indeed.
I'll leave it at that.
This probably isn't like my biggest moment, but I think My Hero specifically, the most recent episodes for Hawks has been like really fun to dig into. Yes, man. The sort of full face turn that he kind of does with Twice. Yeah. Don't touch me.
Excellent work, buddy.
You as well.
Excellent work.
You as well. And there was like so many like, and Hawks has always kind of for me been a very like layered character. There was just like it just wasn't always on the surface. So like I think like I really like, especially when the eyes, like I'm not a bad actor, huh? Like I really approached that. I was like, what does this guy sound like as a villain? You know, and it was cool because the roles were really reversed. And so that I think is like the thing that I think stuck out to me the most is like as an actor was kind of balancing all of those like layers when it comes to My Hero specifically.
It's really intriguing to hear your take on this. Like when you say the roles were reversed, I was like, nah, now we're really seeing the truth. But that was just my perspective. I don't, like Elizabeth said, I feel fortunate in that I feel like that moment for me, my United States of Smash is imminent, and I'll leave it at that.
A couple more episodes maybe, something like that.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for 20 years for Gohan to be great again.
Yes!
So, I know it's a My Hero panel, but you know, like talking about
I was gonna bring up Dragon Ball 2. That was gonna be mine too. But
yeah, dude, seriously. So Beast Gohan and all that. It's like, and Piccolo just lighting a fire under him, and what some might see in an abusive way. If you haven't seen Superhero, but you should have by now. If not, I think eventually, at least in Japan, the Blu-ray will drop. So hopefully soon after that. We don't have a release date, but I can't wait for it to be on home video so everyone can experience Dragon Ball Superhero.
I think like getting to do like the last attack yell and that was like the defining. I used to like do those as a kid, you know, like on the playground. So like doing it in a professional setting was really cool. And I remember doing it and Chris being like, ooh. And I was like, can I do another one? He was like, are you sure?
Oh man, he was one of the first actors that I was working with on Dragon Ball that actually already knew everything. We had to usually explain the whole show to people, but I started explaining something like, shut up, Chris, I already know the show.
Yeah, I know what this is.
You told him. A lot of people would let you explain everything and then be like, okay.
I was like, I know this, don't worry. But I think like just because of the history that had for me, it was like one of the first anime I watched, and then getting to be in it in that capacity and doing the big yells, like I'll always remember that. I think, that's awesome. It's like that's like one of the like I usually give 100, but I think that was like a 200%, literally a full force, everything I had.
I've been planning on this my whole life.
I think I like permanently like changed my voice after that.
Tell me about it.
I'm sorry, Chino, go ahead.
No, that was really good. That was really fascinating. I always forget, like on large panels, like I'm supposed to contribute. I'm like, oh really? Oh, that's interesting. Like, and then Sabin will say something like, tell me about it.
Right.
And I'm like, oh shit, I get it. That's a joke. I'm like the easiest laugher audience member ever. Like I could just watch my friends monologue for hours. And at the old studio, it doesn't matter. I used to, at sessions, I would just sit on the couch and be like, oh, it's the Wendy Powell show, everybody get ready. You know, I'm watching everyone talk, but yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
I love your answer, Tina.
All right, well, cool. That was some really good questions for me. Awesome. I think, though, it's time to open it up to our fans out there in the audience. Who needs to ask these guys a question? Awesome. We're going to have you guys line up right there at the mic.
Don't hurt
Now,
yourself.